Hello. Hello. My name is Thomas Cashman, and today I will be presenting my speech on how to practice as a musician. So, practice in general is something that all disciplines have, but the application between those disciplines are different. So, whether it's LeBron James or the late great Eddie Van Halen, both of them were great because they practiced for many hours. So, what does it mean to practice as a musician? Well, as a musician, practicing is a slow and methodical process of teaching the body how to internalize and then externalize a set of musical parameters in an entertaining fashion. So, who needs to practice? Well, in the world of music, all musicians, if not most, practice in a professional setting. As a music student in the percussion studio here at Capitol, I have some personal investment in that question. One of the tools that I use on a daily basis to practice is my practice pad. This practice pad is an instrument specifically designed for practicing and not for playing in a concert setting. It's quiet, so I can practice without being too much of a nuisance. So now that we've discussed about practicing, how can we break this down into some more digestible parts? So, as a practicing musician, what we can do is understand the theory, and using your ear, we can have careful and consistent practice of our technique, and you can use our time and resources effectively. We'll start by using theory in ear training. Now, music theory is the practices and possibilities of music. Theory can help us by allowing us to communicate music with others. We can internalize music, and then we can externalize the music. In his article on the website for the International Clarinet Association titled "I'm a Clarinetist, Why Do I Need Oral Skills?" Jeremy Wolitz writes and reiterates the old phrase that all music students have heard: if you can sing it, you can play it. This is how theory and ear training helps us externalize our music, even without our instrument. Practicing technique. Technique and fundamentals is a tedious but extremely necessary job for all musicians. Unlearning bad habits is extremely difficult, so practicing your habits good and to start with saves you a lot of time down the road. In an article published to lifehack.org, How to Break a Bad Habit and Retrain Your Brain, written by Bruno Boskic, he writes, "The keys to breaking bad habits are recognizing mental and physical cues and then making them invisible, making your routine more difficult, and making the reward for your bad habit less rewarding." These three steps illustrate how it's very difficult to unlearn these bad habits. But overall, the key is consistency. Consistency in practicing good habits and practicing in general. Now, what is gigging? Gigging is a term you may have heard musicians use as a shorthand for engagement, and it describes a musical show they are participating in. In his book titled The Music Lesson, Victor Wooten writes about the idea of groove and how many aspects of music cannot be obtained in certain ways. An only way of doing it is by performing and gigging in the real world. Many contemporary styles of music, such as jazz and rock, require musicians to jam and play with other musicians to learn by rote or by ear, because not a lot of the traditions of the music are written down. Time management. This is a very important skill for all musicians, but anyone in general. So, time management is to go in and practice with a plan and execute it regularly. It is okay to practice, but it is also okay to practice in shorter periods of time, not necessarily longer. Anastasia Toulouskas writes in her article on NPR.org titled 10 Easy Ways to Optimize Your Music Practice, musicians should practice smarter, not necessarily longer. This means if you can accomplish what you need to do in 15 minutes, then there's no need to practice for 30 minutes. So what about mastery? Well, this is a slightly different take, where in her article, Katie Zukoff writes, research suggests that an average of 4 hours per day over the period of 10 years is required to achieve the expert level of music. Again, the key is still consistency. Being consistent is what allows us to achieve mastery. In conclusion, we have covered the topics of using theory and ear training, how to communicate, internalize, and then externalize our music, practicing techniques, using good habits so we don't have to untrain bad habits, and using time management skills so that we can practice smarter, not necessarily longer, and understand the amount of time it takes to achieve the level of mastery. Thank you for listening to my speech.